Support.
Ma3stro's, please!
Oh my god, we have a camera. Alright, I figured we would do at least some sort of end of year review as the special this year. Obviously we have the camera now, so that's a thing. Regardless, this is gonna be a bit more of a kind of off-the-cuff sort of thing. I just feel like it would be good to, actually give, my favorites of the year, the things I enjoyed the most, considering I've listened to a lot. But I do have a list up. I have a list up of literally every single thing I reviewed this year, both from Record Rundown and Pop Analysis, and we're gonna go through and pick my favorites. So for the Record Rundown side of things, we're gonna do my favorite album from the classical, jazz, rock, R&B, and hip-hop, dance, electronic, and pop charts. And for Pop Analysis, we're gonna go over my whatever my favorite song for Pop Analysis was. And these are just my opinions, but I figured, we'll call it Ma3stro's Picks. Are we gonna make this a regular thing? I don't know, maybe. If you like it, that might be a thing. Do you like this new format? I have a camera now, which is gonna increase the workflow I have to do, because now I have to deal with a visual element as well as an audio one. But we figured we'd give it a try. So, yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so for classical albums, what did we look at this year? How many did we actually do? We did 26 classical albums. Yeah, there are some ones that are old. The Frank Sinatra, Christmas Songs by Sinatra was, a recharting thing. It wasn't up there. Same with the Don Davis's soundtrack to The Matrix. That was up there because of a record store day. Same with Dave Grusin's The Goonies. We always run into our Christmas, Mannheim Steamrollers, Christmas Symphony, Matt and Savannah Shaw, Joy of Christmas. Although we did do another Matt and Savannah Shaw earlier in the year, Stand By Me. And we even had a couple of, more traditional classical albums. We had Jeremiah Freitz's Piano Piano. We had Pat Metheny, normally see him on the jazz charts. Road to the Sun. Vocal Points, Beautiful Blessings. The legendary vocals dude. Peter Hollins. He did with Vocal Point. We had Kit Wakely, Symphony of the Sinners and Saints, kind of a rock thing. On the higher end, the Hans Zimmer No Time to Die soundtrack was good. Ludovico Einaudi was good. Honestly, out of all of these, if there's one I'm gonna have to pick as my favorite classical album, it's gonna be Floating Points, Pharoah Sanders, and the legendary London Symphony Orchestra, their release Promises. That was released at the end of March of this year. It's quite an eclectic album. We have the EDM side of things with Floating Points. We have fantastic jazz sax player Pharoah Sanders, and obviously the London Symphony Orchestra. On the classical charts, we really don't get too much diversity. We get a lot of movie soundtracks, we get orchestral versions of songs that aren't classical, a lot of orchestral rock, even some orchestral pop, even that one time we did Nas's Illmatic, orchestral hip-hop. But I do believe this is probably the closest we're gonna get to an actual fusion of three different genres, especially on this chart. Now, I think they did also chart on the dance and electronic charts, given we got to them on the classical charts first. I really do like how they blended everything. It was kind of an ambient album, and oddly enough, an orchestra actually lends itself very well to an ambient sound, and just the way Pharoah Sanders plays the sax and blends with it, it really did make this stand out as opposed to a lot of the other classical albums we looked at. There's not much I can say about the things that rechart, like the Goonies soundtrack, the Alien soundtrack, the Matrix soundtrack, or even No Time to Die. Yes, Hans Zimmer, you're a wonderful composer. The track with Billie Eilish is fantastic, but I can't pick a movie soundtrack because I feel like that's just a cop-out on the classical charts, because you really need to pick something that's genuinely a classical piece of music. Yes, there are actual other classical artists. Like I said, Jeremiah Freight's Piano Piano, that was a traditional classical album, even more contemporary. Chad Lawson's You Finally Knew, the Texas Tenors, Il Divo, Two Cellos, Brooklyn Duo, all of those. Floating Points, Pharoah Sanders and London Symphony Orchestra stands out. One that's a huge collaboration, but I do feel like that was my favorite classical album of the year. It just had so much to bring to the table, so much going on, and it was just a very pleasant thing to listen to, especially for an ambient album. That's kind of what you get when you're looking for it. You're looking for a pleasant listening experience. I do believe that these three artists all brought that to the table. They all contributed equally. It was just a wonderful blend. Floating Points, Pharoah Sanders, London Symphony Orchestra, their album Promises, my favorite classical album of the year.
It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing.
Jazz is another one where we get a lot of things that re-chart, especially because there are so many legacy releases. We went over so many. John Coltrane, Eric Dolphy, Herbie Hancock, Bill Evans, Wayne Shorty, Kenny Burrell, McCoy Tyner, Dexter Gordon, Sonny Clark, Bill Evans, Miles Davis, Roy Hargrove and Mulgrew Miller, Sonny Clark, Frank Sinatra because of course, Kenny Dorham, Art Blakey. There are so many that are just re-releases, and I feel like I can't pick any of them because they're legendary jazz artists. So trying to pick them just feels like a cop-out. I feel like I'm gonna be saying that a lot. The Cowboy Bebop soundtrack recharted by Seatbelts. That is always a big one. I love the soundtrack to Cowboy Bebop. A lot better than people like the Netflix show, apparently. Speaking of a soundtrack, Andra Day playing Billie Holiday in the United States versus Billie Holiday. I do believe Andra Day did a very good job on that. Very much brought her own kind of style to the Billie Holiday classics. Norah Jones's live album, Till We Meet Again. I do enjoy the occasional Norah Jones, much better than I loved her Christmas album, in my opinion. But we also had, like, you know, there was the Jazz Dispensary, the Dank D-Funk Blend Volume 2, that was a record store day. Willie Nelson's That's Life. He's been doing a lot of jazz albums lately. But if I had to pick my favorite jazz album that's not just one of these re-releases, then I would absolutely have to go with... I swear, I think I'm just a sucker for the organ in general. I've loved everything that the Delvin Lamar Organ Trio has put out. We reviewed their album before this, Close But No Cigar. I do believe that I Told You So just continued what they did with Close But No Cigar, their initial release. I do believe the Delvin Lamar Organ Trio is just a really tight band. Obviously, Delvin Lamar on the Hammond B3, Colin Higgins on guitar, David McGraw on drums. I just believe they have a lot going on. I do like the constant addition of funk elements. I mean, I loved Close But No Cigar when we covered its reissue a number of years ago, and I'm very much looking forward to Cold as Weiss, which is supposed to be coming out in February of 2022. We are probably going to review that on Record Rundown. I see no reason why we wouldn't, especially considering how well his previous stuff has charted. I just really can always vibe to their music. I might just be a sucker for the Hammond B3. I do love the Hammond B3. I would love a Hammond B3, but I can't really bring any more instruments because this room's already pretty full. You know, we got the keyboard, the piano, you have the piano. I have two more pianos that can't fit in this house. Honestly, their stuff has been compared to like Booker T and the MGs, which is a legendary instrumental R&B and funk band. They came out of Memphis. Oddly enough, they come out of Seattle, which does have a strong music scene, but it's not exactly known for jazz. But I just feel like anytime they release something, I know I'm going to enjoy it. It might just be that I am a sucker for a more funk-based jazz. I just feel like as a trio, they're actually able to accomplish a lot, which is saying something, considering between an organ, a guitar, and drums, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of sounds, a lot of sonorities, a lot of frequencies that could possibly be missed, but I feel like they actually do a good job on covering the whole musical spectrum, at least in terms of frequencies. That could just be a credit to their mixer or their masterer, but I do believe a lot of that credit should go to the Delvin Lamar Organ Trio themselves. I would actually be interested in hearing maybe a Delvin Lamar solo album, or maybe them with a larger group of musicians, but I feel like I almost don't want that because they're so good at what they do. Delvin Lamar Organ Trio's I Told You So, definitely my favorite jazz album that we've looked at this year. It was a busy year for rock and roll, but I feel like it always is. We went over a good chunk. In fact, I believe out of all of them, we went over the most rock. If not most rock, it's going to be R&B and hip-hop. We did so much with rock music this year. There was McCartney 3 opening up strong. The numerous Grateful Dead's, the Dave's Picks, volumes what, 37 through 40. Some interesting ones came out. Imagine Dragons, Iron Maiden, the Metallica re-release, Angels and Airwaves, the Beatles Let It Be, but that got up there because of obvious Disney Plus documentaries, the Nevermind Nirvana 30th Anniversary Edition. There was a wide variety of things, going from DG's Hail Satin, the Bee Gees kind of joke tribute band, all the way to like Mastodon, Turnstile, Glow On, that was a fun listen through. Brandy Carlisle and These Silent Days, Brandy Always Kills It. Coldplay, Music of the Spheres was a thing that we listened to. They have that track with BTS on it. The Black Keys, Delta Cream, Gojira, Lord Huron, Rob Zombie, Fleet Foxes, Evanescence, AJR, The Pretty Reckless, Alice Cooper, Julian Baker, A Day to Remember, Chevelle. There was a lot going on this year. My favorite rock album of the year is actually not even so much rock, it actually ties into our previous one on jazz. I believe my pick for favorite rock album this year is going to go to... Daddy's Home, St. Vincent. Daddy jokes aside, although they actually kind of lean into it sometimes, honestly. I believe this is just a super well done, maybe like lounge pop or psychedelia, but it's just so, I hate to steal from Anthony Fantano on this, but it's so thick. It is so unbelievably in your face with what it does. I really do appreciate the mixing on this as well. Jack Antonoff, along with St. Vincent herself. It's just so well done, and especially in rock music that is, for the most part, very much a male-dominated genre. It's nice to see that there are women-led bands really just punching up the ladder and really getting up there. I do believe it is actually nominated. Yeah, Best Alternative Music Album. I do agree with that. It does kind of go outside of what normal people would consider traditional rock, but it got on the rock charts, so you know. A lot of people have put this in their top albums of the year. Consequence of Sound, Rolling Stone, The Guardian, all have put it in somewhere on their list. I believe in Slant Magazine it's actually in the top 5, if not maybe top 3. The lead single off this album, Pay Your Way in Pain, very reminiscent of songs from Prince, songs from David Bowie. It kind of helped that the music video was themed kind of around the 70s and that St. Vincent was dancing in like disco stuff. It really does show that rock is a very diverse genre and you don't have to just go all the way to like the more hardcore genres like metal and punk, or you don't have to go to the pop styles of like Coldplay and Imagine Dragons. There's still a lot of play in there. There's still a lot of things you can do within the rock genre. I really think St. Vincent really pushed the rock genre in a way we're not used to hearing. And I think she did it very well. So kudos to St. Vincent with Daddy's Home, my personal favorite rock album of 2021. It's bigger than hip-hop. This one's gonna be tough. So yes, I would have a favorite R&B album and a favorite hip-hop album, but I am going to pick my favorite of this segment because that's the way we do it. A lot of things released this year, a lot of high-profile releases. Kanye West's Donda, Drake's Certified Lover Boy. There was the compilation album from The Weeknd, The Highlights. Lil Durk had a couple, Nas's King's Disease 2, The Prince's Welcome to America, Pop Smoke's Faith, Doja Cat's Planet Her, Tyler the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost, Amigos Culture 3 was a thing, DJ Khaled's Khaled was a thing, Slime Language 2, Mac Miller's Faces recharted, Young Boy Never Broke Again, Sincerely Kentrell, Baby Keem's The Melodic Blue. Okay, if I was gonna pick a favorite hip-hop album, I would want to say The Melodic Blue, but not because of Baby Keem, just the Kendrick Lamar line that's become a meme. Top of the morning, top of the morning, top of the morning, top of the morning, top of the morning. I do believe that is probably my favorite line of the year, would be Top of the Morning, said by Kendrick Lamar, but I can't pick The Melodic Blue just because of one line that Baby Keem himself didn't even say. Nicki Minaj re-released her old mixtape, Beam Me Up Scotty. J. Cole's The Off Season, that was a thing that happened. Meek Mill, Aaliyah's re-release, Trippie Redd, Polo G's Hall of Fame, Jasmine Sullivan's Hotels, another one that I think is very strong. NF's Clouds, Rod Wave's Soulfly, the DMX Posthumous album. 42 Doug had a thing that happened, as did G Herbo, ESTG. So many albums we went over, and yes, I do believe this is going to be a bit of a cop-out, but I can't help it. My favorite R&B and hip-hop album is absolutely going to be
I'ma leave the door open. I'ma leave the door open.
So you can see what I mean when I say, like, this seems like a cop-out, and it kind of is, with Leave the Door Open being released to such a resounding success, and especially smoking out the window with our favorite Bruno Mars line.
This bitch.
But memes aside, it's an older style of R&B, and oddly enough, yes, I already liked Bruno Mars' singing. I like what he does, especially his work with like the stereotypes and Shampoo, Press and Curls, just the production and songwriting side of things. Silk Sonic has done a great job of rekindling my like of Anderson .Paak. Now, we've done Anderson .Paak before, like on 2018's Oxnard and 2019's Ventura, and yes, I enjoyed those, but they didn't hit me in the face so much as all of this did with Silk Sonic. I also do like the fact that they have the guest star in kind of the whole story, Bootsy Collins, legendary funk player. Starting to realize a lot of the things I'm picking seem to be funk-oriented. Go figure. But I do believe that it's just done so well. I want them to do more. I want them to release more. My biggest criticism of this album is that it was not long enough. It is only 9 tracks long, barely over a half hour. I really want them to continue the Silk Sonic project. I hope both Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak take away a lot from each other into their own solo work. I just need more of Silk Sonic, as I feel like a lot of people probably do. I do think it's an easy pick. It's a cop-out. I'm sorry, I just really enjoyed it. Favorite R&B and hip-hop album, An Evening with Silk Sonic by Silk Sonic. Whoa, look at that. We're actually talking about dance and electronic music on this channel. Oh my god. We didn't even really go over that many this year. We went over 16 dance and electronic albums, and many of those were actually re-charting. All 3 Daft Punk things were all re-charts. Random Access Memories, Discovery, and the soundtrack to Tron Legacy. Lady Gaga's Art Pop, all the Amy Winehouse remixes. The remix album of Chromatica, Dawn of Chromatica. Calvin Harris's 18 Months re-charted. The Thundercat 10th Anniversary Edition. Born This Way, the 10th Anniversary Edition. We did go over some new things. There was the Gary Newman track. There was Marshmello's Shockwave, Jungle's Loving in Stereo, Rufus Du Soul's Surrender. There were a couple of things that we mentioned that were genuinely new. Millennium's Fallen Embers was a big release. I really did, out of all of these, like Porter Robinson's Nurture, but it is not typically my style when I want to listen to EDM. It is overly happy, which is probably a good thing considering the last couple of years. But if I have to pick one of these to be my absolute favorite, well, it's gonna have to be I tend to enjoy dance and electronic tracks that hit a bit harder. I do like a lot of Marshmello's older work, the Joytime series. This one is probably the one that I like the most. I could go back and listen to it, especially in this day and age. Especially in this line of work, I hardly have time to go back to re-listen to anything but BBUOK, especially the title track. Even when it comes down to the features, on some of these higher profile EDM releases, you just get a bunch of pop artists. But just the kind of features that are on this, Bipolar Sunshine on New One, American Football on Thoughts and Chemicals, Weezer on Wheels Up, that's not one I expected to see. I just do think this album was done very well. There are tracks on this that hit harder, there are tracks on this that hit easier. I just had a lot of fun with this album, especially considering we do not get to listen to a lot of dance or electronic music on this channel, let alone new dance and electronic albums, because a lot of them that we went over this year were simply things that have re-charted, and I always do get excited when I see a new EDM album on there that I get to listen to. Frequently I end up just kind of wanting a bit more, not in the sense of more of the kind of music that I'm listening to, but I want like a bit more intensity, a bit more hardcore stuff, and I don't know if that's a reflection of just what I expect EDM to be or what I have just grown to like over the years, especially considering that like Daft Punk is one of my favorite EDM artist, because that's not a cop-out. I would like to hear another Deadmau5 thing, but yes. But for this year, San Holo did very much scratch that EDM itch for me, even though San Holo himself has said this was a post-EDM album. I guess it more focuses on like ambient, lo-fi, even future bass elements in here. But for whatever reason, this did it for me. My favorite dance and electronic album of 2021, San Holo's BB You Okay.
And now I need some help from the maestro, please!
Alright, the big one. Now I know we normally just call this the top 5 rundown, but for this we're gonna kind of more call it just like the pop releases. Although I can't even say that because the Latin and country albums that we go over typically end up in this because we don't explicitly cover the country or Latin charts. This is going to include all of our traditional pop albums as well as our country and Latin albums, although I don't think we actually went over any Latin albums this year. We certainly went over some K-pop ones though, NCT 127, Tomorrow X Together. I'm honestly surprised we didn't go over a BTS album, but we did go over a Twice album. A couple of things on here that just did not do it for me. ABBA was something I wasn't expecting. There were a lot of hits on here. There were a lot of misses on here. Casey Musgraves fell pretty short. Justin Bieber fell pretty short. There were others that were, you know, your standard pop tracks, your Ariana Grandes, your Demi Lovato's, both re-releases of Taylor Swift, and I absolutely appreciate what she's doing, especially being an expert in the music industry. What she is getting away with and what she's negotiated is astounding at its smallest form. Some significant albums came out this year though. Billie Eilish's sophomore album, Happier Than Ever. Olivia Rodrigo's Sour. Ariana Grande's Positions was a thing that happened. It's Ariana Grande, everyone's gonna love it. Lord's Solar Power was okay. Ed Sheeran's Equals, I do not think it lived up to what Divide had done, but I honestly don't even know if he was expecting it to do that. I think he was just releasing the next album. Out of all of these though, the biggest one that really resonated with me and that really got me excited about pop music in general again, well, that's gonna be
Call me up by your name, I'll be on the way like
What a behemoth of an album this is. One of the biggest shockers to me was that this was not on the R&B and hip-hop charts, and it took me listening through that to understand why. Did Lil Nas X disappoint with his first studio album? Absolutely not. I really enjoyed it. I think he did a good job with this. I don't think any of the songs on here were going to get to the point where Old Town Road was. I believe that's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing, and considering he holds the record for longest-running #1 pop song, I think he's okay with that. But there were so many good tracks on here. These singles alone, the title track with the music video, oh my god. Industry Baby, a personal favorite of mine because of all of the brass that's used in the production. Even That's What I Want really stick with me, and oddly enough, That's What I Want was the song that really indicated to me that this was a pop album. I really do hope Lil Nas X keeps up this momentum in his career, which is saying a lot considering this is his debut studio album and he's only done one EP before this, the EP 7, which we've gone over before. I just really want him to succeed in this industry. I really do think he gives representation to a demographic of which was really just occupied by Tyler the Creator when he came out, but having somebody from the LGBTQIA+ community, let alone a person of color from that community, I think is just very important from a societal standpoint. But the fact that his music is done as well as it is just astounding, and I think it's something that the world needs right now. I do genuinely hope that Lil Nas X gets to almost Michael Jackson levels of historical popularity. I do think that is something that I would like to see in the world. I love that every time he releases something, the world just goes crazy over it. Trends on YouTube, trends on Twitter, trends on TikTok. I believe this is something good. We need more of this. We need him to keep up this momentum, but that might end up being a tall ask. Just like with Billie Eilish's album, she was not able to keep up the momentum that she had in her debut album. Is that a bad thing? No, and it was probably going to be very difficult to do that. Happier Than Ever is a great album, but it just doesn't live up to the hype that Let Alone Bad Guy had for so long. I do hope Lil Nas X is able to keep up what he's doing. He seems to be having a good time doing it, and he's putting himself out there, both emotionally and, well, let's be real, physically. Favorite pop album of 2021, Lil Nas X's Ma3stro's. Alright, final segment. Favorite song that we went over Pop Analyses. Of the 11 songs we did, there were a handful that I really debated between, but there were a lot of others that I could kind of just like, yeah, it was a song that happened. Cardi B's Up, Polo G's Rap Star. I don't want to say they were disappointing, but I wanted to expect more. Adele's Easy On Me, great song, but Adele has done similar stuff like this before, so it was really nothing new. BTS's Butter, that was the first time we had to do the K-pop song. It's pop, it's certainly pop. Dua Lipa's Levitating, I honestly might have thought more of it if I did not actually do the version with DaBaby, considering, you know, things. Hit the Roaring Justin Bieber Stay, super freaking catchy and was stuck in my head, but I couldn't say it was my favorite. J. Cole with 21 Savage and Maury, My Life, very strong contender. I did very much enjoy that song. However, I do believe it is eclipsed by J. Cole's earlier work and the obelisk that is All Too Well, the 10-minute version. Honestly, All Too Well probably would have been my number one, but it was just such a slog to actually transcribe. That's not Taylor Swift's fault. I would have had that with anybody who released a 10-minute song. I remember having that same feeling when I did Eminem's Kill Shot. Ariana Grande's 34 plus 35, we did the original version, not the remix. It's an Ariana Grande track. Drake's Way Too Sexy was a thing similar to J. Cole, and actually much more so. I feel like that song is eclipsed by Drake's earlier work, but my number one is oddly enough going to be the first one we did this year.
I got my driver's license last week, just like we always talked about.
Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License. Now you might say, but you didn't pick Olivia Rodrigo's Sour for your favorite pop album. That's because it wasn't my favorite pop album. That was Montero. And honestly, it probably would have been fun to do Industry Baby or Call Me By Your Name, but it never got to number one when we were picking Pop Analysis songs. Combine it with all the drama that's happened around Sour in terms of like writing credits and everything. Notice how I'm not saying Good For You because of Paramore and Deja Vu because of Taylor Swift. Driver's License stood out though. It was her breakout hit. There was some nuance to it. Like there were those phrases that were only 3 measures long as opposed to 4 measures long. Yes, it is a teenage angst song, but it's like the teenage angst song to end all teenage angst songs. It literally can only be teenage angst because you just got your driver's license, although I guess you could get it later in life. Yes, it's a breakup love song, guy left me and guy now with other girl, but they've been doing that in music since, I don't know, always. It's just done so well. It's teenage angst done so well. It has very much put the pressure on her for her next album, similarly to Billie Eilish and Lil Nas X. I just think there's a lot going on here despite its kind of minimalist approach to production. One thing I will say though is obviously she says she's influenced by Taylor Swift and Lorde, and boy can you hear the Lorde influence during the bridge. But out of all the songs we looked at, and I spend a lot of time with these songs obviously, this is one that stood out to me simply because it was a little bit different. Yes, it has a lot of elements that are the same and everything else, but musically speaking, there was stuff going on there that you just don't hear in songs that get to number one. That's why I keep saying in Record Rundown that I believe Olivia Rodrigo is going to win Best New Artist. And out of a lot of the songs on here, this one ended up remaining just Olivia Rodrigo and Dan Nigro. I mean, it's nominated for Record of the Year and Song of the Year, and Academy Drama aside, that has to mean something, right? Out of all the pop analyses that I did this year, I had the most intriguing time with Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License. All right, that's it. That's the review. I picked my favorite in everything that we've done this year. Still experimenting with the visual aspect. Don't know if we're gonna continue doing this, but hey, if you guys like it, then I'll find some way to work it in. And with this review, the Ma3stro's Picks thing, I don't know if we're gonna keep doing it. If you guys like this sort of thing, maybe I'll do it more frequently. Maybe this will be an end of the year thing, maybe once a quarter, maybe once a month, maybe once a week. Okay, that might be a bit much. But I just feel like it'd be nice to actually give my heartfelt opinions on some of these. And that's what these are. These are opinions. By no way am I saying this was the best thing of this year. That is not what I'm saying. Music is a subjective art, and trying to apply any level of objectivity to it is gonna run you into some issues. But speaking of it being subjective, let me know. What was your favorite thing we did on this channel? What was your favorite pop analysis? What was your favorite album? Let me know in the comments. We can talk about it. Regardless, I hope everyone has a good time tonight. I hope everyone has a safe time tonight. And we will see you in 2022 to bring you all of the music that is happening.